In this video, I'd like to show you how to create an assembly in SolidWorks. Let's go ahead and start a new assembly. And I have a few pre-made parts here that I'm going to bring in just to show you. So let's start bringing those into our assembly. Now, if you place this one right now, the assembly menu will go away, which I'll show you here. If that happens and you have more parts you want to bring in, you can do that through the Insert Components, which will bring you back to that menu. Now, if you have multiple parts that you want to bring in, you can select this option here to keep that menu visible until you're finished. So place that pin, and now you can place as many parts as you need. And you can do several instances of a single part if you need. Let's go and browse, and I'm going to bring in, I have another assembly that I'm going to bring into this one, so that will actually create a sub-assembly. Select that. And that's all the parts I'm going to do for now, so I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And now we're ready to place our mates. Now when doing mates in SolidWorks, what you want to keep in mind is you want to try to constrain the three degrees of freedom, or the three directions of movement. In this case, X, Y, and Z. Now, if you have a circular or cylindrical part, that will take care of two of those directions. I'll show you what I mean. Let's go ahead and select those two mating surfaces. And this menu will pop up to give you mating options. And it will highlight the concentric because it'll see that the most likely mate that you'll use is a concentric mate based on the surfaces that you chose. If you don't have that menu, you can come up here to the mate option. And you see once you select that, it automatically places that mate, which if you need to, you can come over here and select whichever one you want to change that. But we're good with that, so we'll go ahead and say OK. And now we just need to place this last pair of mates, or select the last pair of surfaces to place our last mate. And that's it. Now this piece, although you can't see it, it still can rotate because that is a cylindrical mate. If you need to, there is an option to lock the rotation of that piece. Just select that. And then now that the rotation of the piece is locked, and that is now fully constrained as far as movement. Now for our last subassembly, you have a couple of options. You could select a couple of pairs of faces to lock those two directions, or since we have screws and the corresponding holes, we can use those as well. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll use this screw and that face. Select OK. And now, oops, there we go. We can select that last pair of faces. And again, here you can see the lock rotation. When you use a cylindrical mate, the lock rotation does show up, and you can select that if you need to. In this case, we don't need to, so we'll just say OK, and then select that last pair to finish that part. OK. Once you're finished with that, select OK on the mates, and now this piece is fully mated. A couple more things I'd like to show you. Let's say this top piece here, if it is transparent or somewhat transparent, you want to show that in SolidWorks. If you select that part, right click, you can change the transparency, and now you can see through that part. Now finally, I'd like to show you how to use the exploded view in SolidWorks. Just select that from the menu. And what you're going to do is you're actually going to show SolidWorks the steps you want to do your exploded view. So for now, let's see, we're going to select, now since this is a sub-assembly that we used, if we were to just select that right now, those will all move together. So you can do that. Or if you want, you can come down here and, let me undo that, say select the subassembly parts. Now once we do that, let's see, let me clear the selections. Clear the selections, there we go. Now we can come in here and select just the screws if you want to do that movement first. So come up here and then just drag those out. Zoom out a little bit. See how we can go back to that step. All right, so now, yeah, you can come back here and select whatever step you need and modify that. So let's just go through and make all of our moves. So now we can select this piece since the select sub-assembly parts is still on. And, oops, excuse me. Clear that. All right, now move this piece up. And now select this one. Okay. So let's say we're good with that. We have all of our moves. Here we have the 3 steps. We did the screws, the top piece, and then this insert. Once you're good with all of your moves and your distances, select OK. And now this shows the exploded part. Now if you come in here to your top assembly and right click, you have the option to then go in and collapse or explode based on those steps that you created. And you can even come in and let me go and collapse that. You can animate that explosion, and it will go through and it'll actually animate the steps that you chose. All right, let's come back in here and let's exit out of that, and now you can actually animate the collapse as well. All right, there you have SolidWorks assemblies.